Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Exciting announcement for all of my listeners. I've officially opened my exclusive group, the ProjectME Passive Income Posse, to the public. This group is by application only, so we can keep the group high vibe and spend our time, energy, and expertise only helping those of you who truly want massive success and impact. You get live weekly trainings from me, special guest coaches, and direct access to me and my business partner for all of your questions. To learn more and apply, go to projectmewithtiffany.com, click on Work With Me, and select Project Me Posse. And of course, any questions, feel free to DM me at ProjectMeWithTiffany. Welcome to Project Me with Tiffany Carter, the podcast and posse. I'm your host, Tiffany, and today you guys are going to get a dose of something extra special. So for those of you who listen, who are still in your jobs, or as I like to sometimes call them, jobbies, it's like a hobby and a job together. You guys are still there and you haven't yet been able to break off on your own and go for your dream full time. Maybe it's about money, maybe it's your mindset, whatever it is. I want you to hear from my guest today. She is a TV and event host, a media coach, and a wellness expert. She just left her 12-year career at CBS, like she actually quit a TV job to pursue her dream and her passion full time. Kristen Crowley is one of the most inspirational people to me lately because you guys know I came from the news business, and to quit a job that most people covet is really, really damn scary. So I'm getting her like fresh off of quitting, just like I wanted you. How are you, girl?
Hey, I'm so happy to be on here. You know how much I love you. And I joke because we say we're recovering news anchors because you have to recover from that job, literally.
I mean, first tell the people, like, you know, most people look at whether it's a local news anchor or, you know, even someone on the Today Show or something, and they're like, God, that, you know, what an amazing job. Like, you've made it. You know, I would never leave that job. And I think it's so important for people to hear, like, that doesn't mean you didn't appreciate where you were at, but there was something in you that told you it was time for something else. Like, how did those like kind of whispers start coming in?
You know, it happened a couple of years ago, and that's the best point you can make. I think a lot of people don't realize letting go of the label or the title of that is one of the hardest things about it. I mean, I really struggled with, wow, people think you're smart. They think you're important because you have this big job and they think it's so amazing. And, you know, you get all these things. But you know what? We didn't get paid much. The hours are really hard. You are owned by someone else, literally under contract. You're not allowed to do anything outside of that station without approval. And I'm a very creative person. And I did visual merchandising and did a lot of creative work before television. And I missed it. I missed actually being able to say, I want to go do this and not have to get a written letter from my parents at work. And it was really a thing that I think I learned all I could. I connected with the community all I could. And I felt like there was something more for me. And I kept meeting all of these amazing people in the fitness realm. And I met you and all these people through one person, through James Patrick, who is a photographer. And I just got pulled in where I actually felt like I fit in and I had a purpose. And it was more than what I was doing, just being on TV every day, looking at myself in a camera, talking to my own face. I know I was helping people, but there was a missing connection, and I needed that human connection back. So that was where it kind of, I guess it began probably about 2 years ago.
Oh, really? Okay. So I didn't know that. So only about 2 years ago, you started just from meeting that one person, right? We love James Patrick. You guys, shout out to James. He is the founder of
Hey.
Fitposium. What's up? So he, you can sometimes meet just one person. Like I like to say, like when the student is ready, the right teachers appear. And it's like, so obviously there was something in you that knew that it was time for you to do something different. And you started meeting people and you saw them doing what you wanted to do. But take us through some of like that mindset struggle where you're like, okay, that looks really cool. Like I want to do that, but I can't, or I'm scared, or what came up?
There was a lot. I think, the hardest part was because I came from such a diverse background. I mean, I was, in fashion merchandising. I worked in the restaurant business. I was a bartender. And then I went into television. So I'd actually, before TV, lived a life. Like I had all these crazy experiences and I had all these things that I wanted to do. And it was one of those things. The dog's going to bark now because my dogs and my kids are always
This is
everywhere.
why we do live here on Project Me.
This is why. Yes, there's my son. Can I pet you, sir?
Where's that?
This is real mom life, you guys. That's why we do it live.
Mom life. This is why I'm trying to do this in my bedroom with a towel stuffed under the door for noise, and they still broke through the door. So this is what I get. I don't know, buddy. Go ask Daddy. I'll be done in a minute, okay? Okay. He doesn't know either. Okay, well, Mom always knows, but Mom's busy. So I'm going to have to get back with you, sir.
Darn it.
Okay, darn it.
Oh my God, I love him.
I'll be done in a few minutes. So that's part of the reason too. I'm glad he actually came in here because, the TV life, and I know all of your listeners appreciate your no bullshit type mentality of just getting it out there. And I think a lot of people don't realize what people go through being in the media and having to be on 24/7. You can never say anything wrong. You're always, you have to cater to everyone, even if they're being absolutely hellacious towards you and just being rude, and you have to be nice. And it was so draining being there. I love doing it. I still do, but it's so hard to not be yourself, when you want to be. And my kids noticed it. They were the ones who started noticing how tired I was, how run down I was. And then my health started to suffer because of all the stress and just really trying to put on that face 24/7. And, again, I grew up on a farm. Like I like to be casual and just sit there and, kick back and relax. And, you had to have this presence everywhere you went. And it was really hard for me to do that. I mean, over the period of time. And the kids, when they really started noticing my health going downhill, and it went downhill pretty quickly in the past year. And that was where I was like, you know what, I just physically cannot do this job anymore because I was literally getting sick. I mean, the stress was making me sick. And that was the part where I was like, okay, James has put this in my brain that I can do more. Now I just have to figure out what the hell that is.
Yeah. And you guys have heard me say on numerous episodes, right, that I had to get sick like that too, and really sick, like couch bound, for me to truly take action and listen to what my higher power, whatever it is you guys believe in, but listen to that higher guidance, my own intuition, because I was terrified myself. I'd already grew a 7-figure business. I still have it. Right. So you can actually feel kind of handcuffed, even if it's your own business. So that's why I tell you guys, you have to be careful because you can handcuff yourself to your own business. And it was like, but my soul was being sucked in a different way because it was so corporate. And I was the only female with all these old white male executives, and all of them were doing all the inappropriate things. And I had to kind of like laugh it off, like, okay, you just commented about my breasts. That's normal, you know?
We did. You put up with a lot to maintain that professional female image because you wanted to be in that position. And for those of us that, wanted that, you put up with a lot of crap. This is way before Me Too. It was before all these things. Luckily, my television career, I didn't deal with any of that. But of course, bartending and in retail before that was a lot of it. And as straightforward as I am with most things, when you have that title or you feel like you've reached this certain point in your life, you're like fighting to hold on to it until it kicks you to a point where you're like, why? Why am I holding myself back? Because literally this job is giving me nothing else except the title and really the connection with my coworkers. And it was a very difficult decision for me because being a working mom is always hard. I stay at home moms, I give them credit. It is very hard to do. It is all hard. We all have our hard. It just chooses what you really, want to be happy with. But those health scares, I mean, I know what you went through, and that was just, I'm so glad you made it through that and you're okay. Because it really can, because we will run ourselves into the ground because we're hardworking people and we want to please everybody. But once you get to a point where you just can't do it anymore, I mean, I literally would be at work and we would fall asleep during commercial breaks because we were so exhausted. And I couldn't remember my kids' dates. I couldn't remember functions because the brain fog was so bad. And then I had all these other health issues with inflammation and stress and thyroid that popped up. And it was just to the point where I was like, God, if I have to go out for surgery, I don't even know how I would do that right now, because there's no one to fill in for me.
I don't have time to have surgery.
I don't have time for surgery.
I can totally relate, because that was what I said. I was like, I don't have time to be sick. And it's like,
no.
Well, can you imagine, whatever you believe in, but can you imagine God like, oh, that's funny, Tiffany.
Yeah, really?
Well, I'm going to make you even sicker now.
Yeah. Yeah. And and that's the funny thing you mentioned that is because, we ask for the signs, right? We always ask for the signs.
So true.
So true. I had asked for the signs for a good year before this. And because I really didn't make my decision to leave until kind of in the middle of this year. I really had not made an ultimate decision. And I knew my contract was coming up and I had these opportunities and I had asked for signs and I know I had received them at some point, but put the blinders on, was still in tunnel vision. Like, no, my job is important. It matters to me. And I had to think back to, this is funny. It just popped in my head. When I was in the restaurant business, when I was starting out, I was at this really nice restaurant, making just a shit ton of money, loved it. And I was so afraid of losing my job because it was such a great place that I put up with some severe mental and physical abuse there. And I let myself go through it because I was like, well, they need me here. I'm really good. I keep these people coming in. I keep them spending money. They need me. I can't leave because then I feel guilty. And I had my girlfriend slap me right in the face. And she was like, you know what? She's like, you're replaceable. Why do you think you're so special? You're replaceable. They'll replace you tomorrow. They're not going to miss you in a week. So why are you torturing yourself to give so much to someone else? And that came back to me this year full force, where I was like, I love the people I work for, but I need this time for me. And I'm hit 40 years old. I don't feel like asking for permission for things anymore. I don't want to sit there and ask you if I can, work with this magazine or if I can do something that's all work that actually benefits other people. I don't feel I need permission to do that. So that's where it really the switch went off. And I was like, you know what? I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it yet, but I had to take that leap of faith. And I did that in August. That was when I actually quit my job, which was a big surprise to
you guys. And you guys are listening, you could be listening a year from now, but for perspective, so you guys know, this is airing in November of 2019. And right now is October 21st, and we're doing the interview. So this is very, very recent. Now, are we allowed to discuss some of the cool shit that just happened to you recently?
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys, this is what happens when you get all the signs and we ignore the signs. Is that really a sign? Then we start asking for well, give me another sign just to make sure that first sign's the right sign. And it's we can still go through everything she said. And, it comes down to fear, right? It's you still have to take a leap of faith and say, fuck it at some point. You just do. Yeah. At some point you do. Even if you're sick, even if you're miserable, you still have to. But when you actually do it and it's the right time and you follow that intuition, what happens is you get rewarded. And that's also why I wanted to have you on, because Kristen's been massively rewarded by the universe by saying, girl, we've got you. You did absolutely the right thing. So can you share some of the big wins you've had?
I would love to share it because it was honestly, so dating this back to January when I started working with James and his mastermind group and getting into that, something I said I would never do. I was like, I think this stuff is bullshit. I'm not
Oh,
doing it.
really? Oh, I didn't know that
yeah.
about you.
I really, because I'm I'm an only child. I've
Me
always
too.
worked by myself. So, you're used to, you can do things on your own. You always think you can do it on your own, right? I mean, that's like our worst,
Yes,
our worst
totally.
downfall. And I was like, no, I don't need this. What am I really going to do with it? How is it really going to help me? I don't know. I don't know. And it took a conversation or two to talk to him. And I did feel it in my gut to do it. But again, still I didn't trust myself. So when we first started, I agreed, obviously. And I was like, you know what? This will be fun. Like, I need to have more connections and people. So let's just do this. So talked to him in January, and he asked me specifically what my goal was in the fitness and wellness industry. And I don't have a distinct answer for that because I do events. I'm an MC, I'm a host, I'm a party person. So that's what I love to do. And I was like, as far as parlaying that online, we'll talk about that later. He's like, well, tell me a fun goal. Give me your one fun goal if you could pick something this year. And I said, I turned 40 this year, and I would love to be featured or published in one of my favorite magazines. And I would love that to happen after I turn 40. I don't want it before 40 because I want to prove a point. I want to go. I've had 2 kids. I gained a ton of weight with my children, horrible pregnancies, high risk. And I just wanted to prove a point that it can be done, So it's like, I want it after I'm 40. He's like, okay, blah, blah, blah. We move on. Come Fitposium this year. As we get there, I had asked for 2 things before I went to Fitposium that I asked for. One was to be featured in that favorite magazine. And the other was to find some people to come speak at my event that I'm hosting in January. So we get through the first couple days of Fitposium. For those of you not familiar, fitness networking conference. And so, you go through the speakers, which Tiffany rocked it, by the way, I have to say.
Thank you.
Everybody loves you. And so we had, you go through the process, and they do a casting where you meet with all the editors face to face. And, I don't do anything normal. So I had printed actual books for my, portfolio. I printed out like leaflets. Like I'm over the top with that kind of stuff. Had great conversations with all of these people. And at my point, I was full. Like my heart was full. I was like, this was an amazing experience. It really can't get any better until it did. And so they were doing the castings, and I was standing there, really didn't expect anything from it because I think most of us set ourselves up that way. So we see it, like we know we are able to do it, but we don't want to be, let down. So we kind of push it aside. We're like, and I did. I'm happy for everybody else. And all of a sudden, the first one was a magazine that is out on the West Coast, so it's not as familiar in my area, which was Portfolio. My name comes up. I go running up there. I'm ecstatic. I'm loving it. I'm like, this is amazing. I got cast in a magazine here. This is incredible. Out of hundreds of people. Then they're like, well, we need you to stay over here to the side. And I'm like, okay. So I'm standing there and waiting and waiting. And so the magazine that I had manifested in my mind that I wanted to be a part of was Strong Fitness Magazine. And James gets to that part, and they had picked 3 people, and he read the first 2 names. And then there was the longest, most dramatic pause of anyone's life, like in television, where it felt like 5 minutes. And he's just looking around the room, and he's looking around. He's dramatic anyway. So, he's looking back and forth, all Rico Suave up there trying to be cool. And then just like snaps towards me and says my name. And I lost it. I started crying. I got up on the stage. I was the only person who cried out of the whole group of people, like 30 people that had been cast that day. And I was shaking. I was crying because literally what I had seen in my mind actually came true for me. And it was with, I have the experience in that industry, but obviously I'm not your typical one-on-one trainer. That's not what I do.
Right.
And, in your mind, I'm like, well, they want people who are more in that realm or have been there longer. And no, they chose me. And I almost had them crying because we were up on stage together. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're shaking. And this, again, I've had great successes in my life. I've been on TV. I've done all these things. I've done calendars before. I've done magazines before. But this one actually meant something to me in my heart that I had accomplished. And it was almost it gave me that confirmation of what I had done was right. And it was
Exactly.
my solid confirmation. And I could not deny at that point in time that I had made the right decision. And it was so overwhelming. I'm not going to cry on here right now, but I get so emotional about it every time I think about that exact moment. And it was incredible. And I ended up shooting for them that weekend. They pulled me into the studio with Jay. We shot, and that will be in the magazine in Strong Fitness for North America and Australia.
Oh my God. I didn't know about the Australia part.
Yeah. So
Oh
I
my
get to work with
God.
Australia as well. So, within like this blink of an eye, you're all of a sudden featured in 3 magazines, and one of them is international. And it's so mind blowing to me that it happened that quickly, I guess, in my mind. I guess it wasn't that fast because I had been in that realm for so long, but in my mind, it happened fast. And
I mean, it is fast in the sense that you just left your career of 12 years for the first time ever. You were not employed by someone, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, when you were a bartender, you were employed. When you were in fashion merchandising, you were employed. This is the first time. So in just a matter of months, this has happened. Also, like you said, it's like you're 40, right? You're not, you don't fit the typical mold of what I have tons of like fitness, wellness, health people who listen to the show. And I wanted you guys to hear this because we tell ourselves so many lies, like, oh, I have to have a perfect 8-pack. I have to be a certain age. I have to be like a well-known fitness trainer with my own product line. Yeah. I have to have shot, many other covers. I have to have hundreds of thousands of social media followers. That's all. She has she does have amazing abs, but I mean.
Well, they were not. And again, this is the funniest part is because they had seen me the whole weekend and I was treating that like spring break. I mean, we were eating dessert. We were having wine. I was eating like fillets and baked potatoes every night at 11 p.m. I mean, I was like having a blast because again, you're with all your girlfriends. I don't get out much. Your mom, I'm like, woo, how about spring break? I'm in bed by 9. I mean, it was really fun. But I told them, I said, you want me to shoot on Monday? I'm not ready.
So you didn't know.
No.
Oh, why would you know? Because you didn't know you got it. And then the next surprise was, oh, by the way, you're going to be wearing very tight and few items of clothing. And you're like, why did I eat all those fucking potatoes?
Exactly. And I had 2 desserts. I had both nights they watched me devour desserts. And the only the thing that I can share with your people that I think are is one of the biggest, I guess, takeaways from it is what their editor said to me was, I told her, I said, I'm kind of nervous. I really would like to have been in better shape. We always do that to ourselves. I want to be in a better position. I want to be more rested. I want to be thinner. I want to, all these things. And she looked right at me and she was like, we wouldn't have chose you if we didn't want you. And we chose you for you. Wow. So we didn't choose you because you're like ripped and shredded. She's like, we don't like people to diet or try and kill themselves for our magazine. We want you to be yourself. And that's why I always have loved them because they do support strong women. It's more about strength than it is, you fit this little tiny mold. And I you can fit in that mold, but you can only do it when you're really trying most times because I don't like to live that way. I choose to enjoy wine and beverages.
Girl, me too.
I'm not going to kill myself for it. And this just goes to show that it really is your personality or how you connect with those people that actually matters. That trumps everything else because I love connecting with people and I'm honestly trying to help other people. And they saw that and they've been so incredible and wonderful that I just can't even, I'm like beside myself. Like I can't find the words still.
Well, listen, you guys don't know this part, but I spoke on stage and then, Kristen came in and saw me at the end and then I saw her. She's like, I didn't see you the other days. I had to come see you. And we spoke, we spoke for 30 seconds. And then I started crying because I already knew.
Yeah. And you didn't, obviously.
And I was crying though, but I wasn't just crying for the cover. It was because, I know how hard it is to leave that news business And it's also hard to leave. It was hard for me to leave in my pharmaceutical career because that was like an ego chaser in another way. I was a top executive. I had an unlimited expense account. I had a company car, made lots of money. That was hard in a different way. So it was like, I had a lot of empathy, and plus obviously like we've already, connected and have a bond. And I knew, and I was like, I cried, and then she was like, don't make me cry. And I'm like, then you saw me later at like the VIP party. She's like, now I know why you're crying. I'm like, I knew.
Yeah, you totally knew, and you hit it from me. And you did a really good job because, again, for those of you that have not met Tiffany in person, you are extremely empathetic, and so am I. So you always like, you draw from the people you're around. So you crying didn't really throw me off because I knew you like felt that it was just an emotional time leaving the news business. And I was like, oh, she's got me. She understands that part. And then when I found out later that you knew, I was like, oh, it makes perfect sense that you were, that emotional.
I cried when I was told I cried,
Aww.
because I am so amazed by the power of manifestation and what we put out there. But that doesn't mean, you guys, like, that Kristen, like you just like were chilling out on your couch and manifesting this. Like you said, you went big, like you printed out all the books, you came from the heart, and you are a practice storyteller, like you did work on putting together, right? Like your pitch for these people. You also invested in a mastermind for fitness and wellness professionals. So you did your part and the universe did the rest. Would you agree?
I 100% agree because, and again, you're your own worst enemy in these situations because again, and I don't think I ever told you this, I almost did not show up for that first interview with the TV station.
What? Why?
I almost backed out. I was at that point in time, I mean, this was 12 years ago, I had a fear of public speaking.
No.
And a very, very solid fear. And I was actually a manager with Lord & Taylor was the department store I worked with. And I had to do some meetings, but they were small. And I was okay in small groups, but I was in the creative side. So mine was showing or displaying things. So I was able to do that. I opted out of every speech class in high school. I never did a live speech until, I guess, my late 20s, technically. And I, sat there and I was trying to figure out how I was going to, I had done photos and things like that. And I knew I loved media and I loved that, creative process. And I wanted to learn more. And again, every time I feel like I've outgrown something, I do shift careers pretty drastically. And I like to learn new things. So I had been told by enough people that I would be good at it. I was like, they're drunk. They don't know what they're saying. It's fine. I got them drunk. They like me.
She was a bartender, remember? Like she went from a bartender to a TV news personality. That's a pretty freaking big jump. Okay, go ahead.
Crazy jump. And it was funny because it's like, okay, well, we're gonna just make this happen. I went to BB. I bought a cute suit. Like I spent.
Oh my God, dying! You went to BB.
You remember the BB suits?
Totally.
They were so cute. I had a little belt, and I thought, I was like, well, I looked the part. Like I might as well. I spent all this money on this satin BB suit, so let me put this. I got there, and this is kind of back when, because I started in traffic, they had kind of more of a casting call, I guess would be the way to put it. There were 44 people in that line.
No.
I was only person who did not have a broadcast or journalism background.
For sure, I believe that. I mean, I know. God, I didn't even know news stations did casting calls.
It was a specific thing they had done really for the traffic position, and then it grew into more, obviously, based on just me and my ability. But it was in the beginning, that's kind of how they had housed it, and it was more of because that was kind of the beginnings of the social media, kind of back when MySpace was just fading and Facebook was just starting. And so they were trying to do it to get some more attention and get more people in there. And they did. It garnered a lot of attention. But it was funny because I'm the one in line. I'm like, hey, y'all want to get a shot of tequila? And nobody thinks I'm funny at that point. They're all just like staunch face.
Exactly. With like anchor hair.
Yeah, anchor hair, anchor voices, because they don't want anyone to think they're real. And it was one of those moments where I was like, you know what? I'm here. I was meant to be here. I'm just going to do it. And I ended up getting the job. So I was still bartending 5 nights a week and doing the news 5 mornings a week. And I did that for years until after I had my daughter. And I ended up, kind of phasing out the restaurants because I do love it. And yeah, so it was a very strange career path. That's why I'm telling anyone out there that is listening, you are capable of being more than one thing. I don't think you ever need to be pigeonholed. And that's why it's so difficult for me to ever say, I just do this, because I will never just do this. I have to do all of these things. So, it was an experience, but I almost did not show up that day, and it would have been a totally different life, because it would not have gotten me over public speaking fears. It wouldn't have gotten me comfortable in front of the public. And I would have never been as confident as I am to be able to go and walk in, at 40 and say, you know what, I'm going to be in a fitness magazine.
Exactly. And that's why you guys might even be at a job right now or having to do something on the side in order to, feed your kids, pay the bills, invest, in growing your business. But all of those things are a path that's already been predetermined for you and laid out to build on that experience, right? Like, I truly believe, and I was a newscaster, right? I was one of the people who would have been in line, by the way, with the anchor hair and my voice. You guys want to hear my broadcasting voice? Wait, I need to read something.
Do.
It's
okay,
so
get
funny.
Get a script. We need a script in front of you.
Oh my God. It's so bad. I'll have to wait. I need to read something right now. You guys are going to die. Between my assistant and I missed the prior emails, it seems. So thank you for resending. Parking. We have a lot, but it's not good, as Tuesday afternoons are busy. So most spots are taken. Thank you. I mean, it's like awful, right? So I was one of those, that was random, impromptu, but I was one of those people. But I believe that experience and that training taught me to write, taught me storytelling, taught me how to present. I was you guys know I'm an introvert, empath, intuitive. I was very shy. I didn't have a fear of public speaking, but I was shy. So that helped that aspect. So everything's being laid out. Like you even being a fashion merchandiser, it's like, well, what does that have to do with bartending? What does bartending have to do with being a newscaster? What does being a newscaster have to do with being, a fitness cover model? Well, but it does, because her fashion merchandising is the creativity. It's how you display things. And then that's why I think you guys have to follow her too on Instagram at Kristen Crowley TV. So it's KRISTEN CROWLEY TV. If you're driving or something and you want to take a screenshot of the show after you're done driving, or you're at a stoplight or something like that, share the show and tag me, tag Kristen. If you don't remember what her Instagram is, as long as you tag me, I will reshare the screenshot you did on my Instagram stories. And then she'll know, if you loved her, you loved the story, if you got something out of it, if it felt good. But I want you to see her Instagram. Number one, she doesn't have hundreds of thousands of followers, and all these things have happened. Okay. And she's on TV every freaking day. Well, 5-6 days a week, almost every day for 12 years, and still didn't have that following. That doesn't mean she wasn't beloved. My point in saying that is you don't need to have all these things that we tell ourselves we need to get what we want. But her feed visually, I feel, is of someone who is as well versed in digital marketing as me, because of your experience as a fashion merchandiser, because of the visual creativity. Do you feel like that's part of why your visuals are so good, that you kind of see things that way?
Yeah, I think it helps. And especially being in media, because we became so social media driven that we had to learn all the ins and outs of it. So we became very good at it, because that accounted for a lot of our ways for advertising and sales, was how good we were personally. We were ranked every day in this market against each other. 100 some journalists a day. You received a report the following morning on your social media activity. And so it was a lot of stress.
Oh, I don't even, because that it wasn't a thing. Obviously.
Newer.
My God. If I had that pressure, and you couldn't really totally show it had to be like PG on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was one of those things that everything was very selective. And I've never paid for an ad. I've never paid for anything. All my people are genuine, actual people I talk to. And that's why, I'll have, hundreds of, like I actually have conversations with people because I care. And that's why I've deleted and blocked several hundreds people, thousands at this point. I don't even know. Because if they say things that are disgusting or inappropriate, whatever, I don't have time for that. Like nobody has time for that. And it's quality over quantity. So
exactly. That's another thing for you guys to hear is like, it's the amount of engagement. And we all still have to remind ourselves. I mean, listen, I'm sure you've put out like a cute pic and like it didn't get much response, or like you've crafted this amazing caption. You're like, this was from the heart while I had a glass of wine on the airplane writing it. And then it almost no one engages with it. It's like really low compared to your other ones. It does kind of it doesn't feel good, right?
We're all in the game. I mean, it is a game. Social media is a game. You have to market yourself. You have to brand yourself. You have to be smart about it. You have to choose nice photos that, nobody wants to see the picture of part of your rug and, your dog's foot. It's, that's not, people just don't care because we're inundated with so much. So I found either ways to be seen or to be really loud or to be really quiet, because when we hear silence nowadays too, it catches our attention. So I choose my highs and lows of what I'm talking about. And it's typically what I'm feeling that day. And if I think it can help at least one person, that's really all I care about. I've never been that driven by it, which is probably why I've never tried to really get to that status. Maybe it'll happen if it's supposed to, but I'm totally fine with where it is. But people should have faith in the fact that I've received deals with several companies just by my social media. And it does help when you are on TV. I'm not going to lie. Does help because you are a little bit better, like you said before, presenting yourself in front of people and you can stay on topic. But yeah, I've received, endorsements, free products. I've, been signed on as ambassadors for a couple of things. And, it's little things here and there, which do help with the bottom line. I mean, it's little things that you can just add in if you're consistent. But I think consistency is the only thing that works for me. And I consistently go to the gym. I consistently am the same personality type. I really haven't changed. So I think if, when people are listening, if you stay consistent and on message, like you've said this as well, your people will come to you. You will be put in the path of the people who need to be in your path. And that's when things will happen. And it's pretty amazing. So if anybody has any questions on any of it, I'm happy to answer it. Same as Tiffany, I'm an open book about it. I talk about everything and anything because if it helps someone else get over their fear of doing something. I held myself back for so long. And that was the biggest regret that I had is most of my 20s, I was too scared to do things because I thought people were going to make fun of me.
I can relate. I had the name, the logo, everything for ProjectME with Tiffany Carter for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
10 years. And it didn't pop up in my mind every day, but I would say for sure at least 3 days a week it would pop up. And it was those limiting beliefs. I had to repair my self-worth first because I was like, well, who's going to want to listen to me? I'm a hot mess. And so I had to, we have to sometimes, our path is not going to look as straightforward as Miss Bali Babe who looks like a mermaid and writes one post and makes six figures. Everyone's journey is different because maybe you're being led into repairing some stuff inside of you and doing some inner work first. Maybe your focus needs to be somewhere else first or learn something first before that happens. So let me ask you this. Now that you have made that transition and obviously you've had the what could be a better confirmation than either a crap ton of cash or getting cover model deals? Have you had any moments, even if it's just lasted 5 minutes, where you're like, oh my God, what did I do?
Actually, no. That's the one thing that I can say is the hardest part about leaving my job was still being there. Once I actually left, I really was at peace with it. Because I just walked out the door. I knew those people were still in my lives. They're not going to disappear the second you leave. We have the internet. We're all going to be connected. And when I immediately saw kind of the reaction at home and being able to help my kids more, it was immediate peace in that sense. I miss it. but not to the point where I regret anything that I did. And, it kind of makes you think like, wow, if I would have done this sooner, but it was the time that I needed to leave.
Right. Like, and how it was supposed to happen and when it was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
The timing is already, predetermined. If you guys, can open yourselves up to that thought, that's faith. You don't have to believe in Jesus, God, Buddha, whatever. That's just straight up faith. So for people who are listening, I know you guys, I always know the burning questions you have. And if I ever forget, you all remind me, which I love you for, because I would do the same thing. So burning question I know the people have is, how do I know, Kristen? How do I know when it's time? Like, how do I know? It's so scary because maybe I don't have a bunch of income coming in from my like side hustle, business, or I have kids too. Like, how do I know that it's time?
Oh, that's a great question, because in our own minds, we never think it's time. So I had to 100% trust my gut and my health. I had to 100% let go. And I had to have people around me that would tell me that. It did help me to have a coach and someone who was saying, you've got this, like you do have this. And kind of the same way I got into TV, there was people that were like, no, you are capable of this. So I think that's why I'm so supportive of other people, because without that positivity coming back to me, I don't think I would have made those steps as quickly. So I felt it the most when I felt that energy from everybody around me. So when that kind of was like that radiating back to me, and I felt comfortable enough saying it out loud as well, because I think you have to say it out loud. And it's hard, I am a personal trainer. I am whatever you want to become. When you can say that out loud, that you are that, I think you've come to that point where you really know that's where you're going. And when you wake up and you're thinking about it and you're dreaming about it, the things like that, it really all hits you at once. I really felt it in my gut, my heart, and my head all at the same time. And I have to give credit to the support system around me and my husband and my kids, because they were all so supportive of me just letting go. And I knew I was going to do the events, the wellness events, and that went great. And when that day happened and I had zero anxiety anymore about what I was doing, that's actually probably the best point. When my anxiety did not flare up when I was making the decision, that's when I really knew. I think that was the biggest point.
And when we listen to our bodies, right? Like when the anxiety, the anguish, your health is far greater staying at that place of work or doing, a certain business. Maybe you're in a niche that doesn't feel good to you anymore, or you thought it would, or maybe you're in a network marketing company that at one time served you and it doesn't anymore. And you have to listen to the signals your body's giving and how you're feeling. And if it's all those kind of anxious, depressed, sick type feelings, what do you really have to lose? Right. I mean, I was worried about losing cash because mama likes cash, and I created a really nice lifestyle. And I remember what it was like when I was a news anchor and I was broke ass.
Yeah. You don't make any money in television. Like you really don't.
That's another fun fact for you guys to know. Just like I always say, like social media, like, there's more to the story than what you see. Like we were joking before the call, like at the station she's at, there's like duct tape holding up the letters. And I was laughing because we had like fake plants and then we had like a random cat, like a scraggle cat. That would like come in, we're doing the news. And I was like, there's like nasty dust buildup in the corner. And it's like, but you see even that like older footage of me and you see it, you're like, what a great set.
Oh, it's beautiful. It looks so fancy. Meanwhile, we're like staple gunning the carpet back down. It's terrible, but there's so many misconceptions out there. So it's, don't judge a book by its cover. You never know what someone has been through or what their job really entails. But, if you can just kind of shed the positivity about it to other people, that was what made me want to do it, because I realized how amazing this group that I had fallen into was and how much they supported me. And I really knew that I couldn't fail if I felt better overall. I mean, my health was far outweighed my monetary side of things for the first time in my life ever. Because I've always been very driven. I bought my first house, I was 23. I never had a debt in my life. I paid everything off in cash. I was, I worked my ass off. I was working 3 to 6 jobs at a time at some points in my 20s because I wanted to travel and have all the nice things and whatever. And where is that crap now? Like, I mean, I don't have it now. I mean, what was the point in killing yourself for it? So that was the hard part, was letting go of that as well, of not having my own income that was, what I thought it should be. I think a lot of people out there hang on to that. You can hustle, you can make side money if you have the motivation to do it. And even if you can't, go, bartend 2 nights a week until you can really sustain it. But you have to put the work in, obviously. Like, you can't just say, I'm going to leave it all to faith and then go lay on your couch for a week. Like, that's not going to cut it. You have to do the work, but you have to do it with purpose and intent and consistency. And then, yes, it will pay off. And just as long as you treat people the way you want to be treated in the business you're in, it does come back to you. You don't have to be an a-hole about it to everybody, trying to be powerful and strong. And, I've always treated everybody who mops the floors the same as the person who's at the top, because they all could be or were that person at some point. You don't know what anybody's been through. Just kind of finding that acceptance in life and in my family and my career. It's like the biggest weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
I can see it in you. And you know what I thought when you were talking? It's like, isn't it interesting how you and I connected? I don't know. You found me on social media. It was before your mastermind.
Oh yeah, way before.
And I don't even know how it was, but you somehow found out, maybe from listening to the show, that, I was a former, newscaster as well. And I left. Mm-hmm. And it's just interesting how the universe made sure you also met someone who has done it.
Yeah. And that was actually your interview on James Patrick's podcast. When you interviewed on him, you had mentioned the news thing. And I remember I messaged you at that moment. I was with a stair climber at the gym listening to that podcast. And I still remember that moment so clearly, because it was, your story came up. It was still in, before all these decisions had been made. And I heard your story, and it triggered something inside of me to reach out to you. And I did, and you responded, and we talked about the news stuff, and I was still there, obviously. And you were like, well, you got this, girl, you're fine. Like, just, keep going. And then the next time I saw you was when you were speaking to our group. And I got to tell you, hey, I've moved a couple steps closer to this decision. And you were like, oh, you're already at that decision. Like, you already knew. Like, you totally called me out. And you were like, oh no, you're going to be fine. And I was. And that's the best part, is I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you being brought into my life in that way. Again, I think it's all for a specific reason, and I'm extremely grateful this year. I think that's the biggest takeaway, is I feel so much more at ease, and I'm so grateful for everything, and I just have a better perspective. And I really wish for everyone that is listening that they can at least strive towards that peace. And if you do see something that resonates with you, or someone or something they say, reach out and talk to them, because it literally could change your life.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, she reached out to me, maybe what you're hearing from Kristen today, like you're in that spot. So DM her at Kristen Crowley TV, Kristen Crowley TV. If you forget, you're driving, you're mopping, you're cooking, you're breastfeeding, whatever it is you're doing. I know you guys know mine at ProjectME with Tiffany. You can always say, oh my God, I forgot, or look in show notes, and I'll make sure I direct you to her. But take a screenshot of the show, tag us both so that we know that you got something out of it, that you loved it, and share it with someone who is asking that question. I want to leave. I don't know if I should. When should I? Like, pay that forward, because this might be the very message and insight that they need to hear to actually do that for themselves. Okay.
Yeah. 100%.
So where can the people, aside from Instagram, like, where can they like follow your journey, see what's going on? Is it on your website? Where do they go?
Yeah, everything is on the website. So it's www.kristencrowley.com. And on the website, I do have my email. You can reach out to me that way as well. It has all the links to Facebook and Instagram and the WellFit Social. If there's anyone who's on the East Coast, our big event will be in January. And I actually have people coming in from Dominican Republic, Canada, North Carolina to all speak in Virginia for that event. And that was the other thing that came out of Pitposium, was I found some amazing speakers, and they're coming to that event in January. And we have a great time, and it's very uplifting and networking and very positive. So anybody that's out there, reach out to me, because obviously, as much as Tiffany does, we both like to talk. So I will talk to everybody
She
about
will.
anything.
She loves to talk. So really quick, what is your event, WellFit Social? Like, who is it for specifically?
It's an all-inclusive event. So WellFit Social combines the three aspects of wellness, which is internal, external, and mental health. And we combine all of that through varied speakers. And we have networking exercises for everybody in the beginning. We have vendors, swag bags, fun food and cocktails, of course, because I can't have an event without good cocktails. Last one had margaritas, by the way. They were skinny margaritas, but they were still very good. And I really wanted people to be in a space where they felt comfortable being invited into the fitness world, because I think a lot of people think it's exclusive because you have to look a certain way. That is not the case anymore. And everybody's healthy in a different way. And that's what the event empowered people to do. And out of the event, there was, dozens of collaborations were made. My heart was so full. Again, I told you I had zero anxiety about doing that event. Even the day of, I was going to take a nap before the event went on.
Wow. Says almost no one.
Yeah, I was so confident and calm that it was going to go the way it did. And I literally manifested that room, and the room was exactly what I wanted. It was every age, every demographic, every race, and everybody had different jobs. There were teachers, stay-at-home moms, lawyers, fitness people, and they all approached each other with open minds and open hearts, and they were all hugging. And it was just one of those events that honestly was another confirmation that I was doing the right thing of connecting those people together.
Well, make sure you send me all the things so I can help support your event, because all my people know I'm all about that, given, I have overcome being, an eating disorder with exercise addiction. And it was a big deal for me to even speak at Fitposium, because the old me, I would have starved myself and worked out 4 hours a day in order to have looked a certain way that I thought I needed to look to stand there. And guess what? No one cares. What matters is, you're strong, you're confident, you give a shit, you have a message, you have a purpose, you have, divine guidance. That's what people care about. They don't care how old. There's like 65-year-old women there rocking it. No one cares.
Nope. That's the thing. Inclusivity of everybody being involved and not feeling like they're being judged. And from anybody who's being bullied or was picked on as a kid, I was there with you. That's probably why I'm so nice to everybody. That the more we support each other in these type of events and listening to these type of shows, just the better we become. That's the biggest takeaway for me this year, is surrounding myself with the best people possible. And I am extremely grateful for you, because you have been absolutely tremendously amazing to me, and your energy is infectious. And it definitely has helped me more than one time listening to what you say. So I appreciate you having me on here to share this, because I do truly hope that it helps somebody.
Oh, it will, without a doubt. Take that screenshot, you guys. Tag Kristen Crowley TV and me at ProjectME with Tiffany. Share it with someone who is going through this anguish and is tossing and turning at night, because the last thing they want to do is drive into work the next day. Like, give them this gift. This might be exactly what they need. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and just being you. I loved having you on.
I love talking to you. I could talk to you all day. So thank you. I love you so much.
Love you. Bye, girl.
All right. Bye, babe.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.